Hi everybody, it's Robin from Barn Hunt. I wanted to do a series of tutorials on how to use Illustrator to design Barn Hunt course maps. First thing you need to know is that I am not an expert at doing these tutorials, and even though I have a good knowledge of Illustrator, it's not an expert knowledge of Illustrator. So there may be ways, if you have been doing Illustrator longer than I have, that you might find shortcuts that I can't do. The other thing is that I am showing you from my PC. Mac commands may differ just a little bit, but should not differ dramatically from this. I'll also probably have to have a few interruptions here and there if the dogs start barking or something like that. So I hope you forgive that. Let's get started. So this is Illustrator CC, and this is a subscription version of Illustrator. That's the only way you can buy Illustrator now. Some of you may have older versions of Illustrator already on your machine. Most of these techniques will work for older versions. Some of them will not. So the ones I'm pretty sure won't, I'll let you know. Otherwise, you should be able to figure out a way to transfer from old to new. A lot of it is the same. Because I have Illustrator CC, I have this splash screen here for my opening. This might not be available in older versions. If not, to start a new document, you can just click on File and New, or Control or Command N. I am just going to click on this New button right here. New. Then I get another screen. What do I want to name my document? I'm going to name mine Course Grid. Okay, and then the only other thing I need to do is I'm going to check its letter size, and it is orientation is what we call portrait, so it's going to be a typical letter size piece of paper. Just hit OK. And now we have a letter size piece of paper. I know I named this, but I haven't actually saved it yet. And if there's one motto that you need to remember for all computer work, but especially for working in Illustrator, save early, save often. So I'm just going to do a file, save as. I'm going to do Barn Hunt. I'm going to create a new folder for video courses. And then I'm going to do that. And since I named it in my screen, it's already named for me. I'm just going to say save. And okay. All right, so now it's saved, it's ready. We have our first grid up here. The very first thing I'm going to do after I've saved it is I'm going to turn the rulers on so that we can see what our rulers are. And that's very easy. It's a control, probably a command in Mac, R. And that turns on a ruler grid across the top and the side of the page. I have my zoom tool already selected. That's what I'm waving around here. And to be able to see that a little bit more closely, I can just click and drag and make it bigger. And now you can see that across the top it says 0, 1/2, 1, 1/2, 2, 1/2, 3, so that you can see your rulers. Anytime I want to zoom out to the full page, I just double click this hand right here. Just double click it. And that zooms me out to the whole page. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some setup, and this is what this first video is going to be about, is just setting up your page to get it ready to draw on. First thing I want to do is I want to put a non-printing grid in the background of my page. So I'm going to say Edit, Preferences, and I'm going to go here to Guides and Grid and click on that. Okay. Guides and Grid, I want a grid line every 1/4 inch, so 0.25 in, and then I want 2 subdivisions of each. Grids in the back is clicked, and Show the Pixel Grid is also clicked. My colors, I don't mind. You can change these colors if you want, but I'm good with these. I'm just going to click OK. And it looks like nothing happened, but really something did happen, because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the View menu and click on View. I'm going to go all the way down here close to the bottom, and I'm going to click Show Grid. And look, there's my grid. It has divisions so that I can do feet and inches, and I'll show you how that's going to measure out in just a minute. Because the next thing I want to do before I do that is I'm going to hit View again, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to click Snap to Grid. And anytime you want to click those back off, you can go View, Hide Grid, and you can just unclick Snap to Grid. But I want it to snap to the grid. What that means is all my lines and everything will snap to these lines so I can get accurate measurements. So here we are. Last thing I want to do is I want to put in some guidelines. And now that I've got it snapped to grid, I'm actually going to turn off. I'm going to hide my grid for just a little bit, but I have this snapping to the grid already. To put in some guidelines, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit because it's easier for me to see if I do that. And I'm going to scroll up so that I'm at the top. I'm going to take my direct selection tool, which is the black arrow, and click it. I'm going to click up here in this top menu, and then I'm just going to drag down. You can see the little dotted line going down. It's sort of snapping. You can see how it's kind of clicking from one to one. I'm going to go to the 1-inch mark. I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to do the same thing from the side. I'm going to go to the side menu, and I'm going to come out. And I'm going to click here. And I'm going to scroll over. I'm going to use my little scroll key here at the bottom to go across to the other side of the page. I'm going to use my side menu again. I'm clicking it and come across to 7.5 would make an inch margin. Go all the way down here to the bottom. Do the same thing from the top. Go down here to the 10-inch mark and click. Now I'm going to double click on my hand again. And I've got an inch grid on my page. We can go 1/2-inch grid and it would still print real well on a printer. We're just going to play with this as an inch grid first and see where it goes. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to View. I'm going to show my grid. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to click on this little thing over here, which is my layers palette. It'll do a flyout to a layers palette. And you can see that I am on layer 1. It has a little eyeball over here that shows that it is on. I'm going to rename this. I name all of my layers so that I can figure out what they are. I'm going to rename this Guides. I like having my guides on a layer to themselves. It makes them a little bit less problematic for me. I'm going to name it Guides. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it. And all you have to do is you click in this space between the eye and this little bar of color here. Okay, that locks that layer. And to show you one last time, if I hide my grids here, I have my layer on. See my little eyeball on here? I can turn that eyeball off, and the layer hasn't gone away, but the guides don't show now. Turn it back on, the guides show, off, on. So I think that's actually going to be the start of our first video, and I will do the next video. We'll start building our background for our course. Thanks, and I will see you in a bit.